Week 18 and the #1 stack on DraftKings is in this game. We're going to walk through Seahawks Cardinals and build a lineup at the end.
I think when you look at this game and it does feature a team that's been eliminated, the Arizona Cardinals, but the Cardinals have given us no indication like they are in the bag. Like they were losing 21-6 in Philadelphia and stormed back in that game. Like they're out here playing. So I do have confidence that even with it being week 18 and them being eliminated, that the Cardinals and Jonathan, like they want to finish the season strong. They haven't given us any indication otherwise. Seattle still is alive. They need a little bit of help. They need to win, and Green Bay to lose to make the playoffs. But I think the way the Bears are playing, people probably think that actually isn't, non-zero chance that could happen. Obviously, Pete Carroll's going to play this game all out anyways, too, because they are fighting for that playoff spot. So inherently, we got a high total. We're indoors. We've got some fun pieces here. I think it does start with Geno Smith for me. And kind of that, and you can play the run game here too. We're going to touch on that, but I do think Geno Smith, we talked about him in the other video as well. But what stands out to me is that, he did have one of his higher efficiency games against Arizona, a team that we have targeted all year. We only get to spend one more week with this 2023 Cardinals defense. And in that week 7 game when they played, I mean, he completed 75% of his passes, 9.1 yards per pass attempt. But, Arizona, who was a different version of the Cardinals team that we have today, only scored 10 points. They had 249 total yards. Geno Smith only had to throw 9 passes in the second half of that game. Now we've got Kyler Murray on the field. They didn't have James Conner that game. He's back and on a heater. They had Zach Ertz as their primary tight end. Now you got Trey McBride. And with Trey McBride, James Conner, and Kyler Murray on the field, they go from 5.6 yards per play to 4.2 yards per play when those guys are out the field. That's the difference from being 8th in the NFL in yards per play to 31st in the NFL in yards per play. And why that circles back to you say I just dropped a bunch of Cardinal stats, that ties back to Geno because they're going to get more push in this game from the Cardinals. And that means Geno's not going to throw. He's going to throw more than 9 passes in the second half against this Cardinals defense. We have targeted the entire season. When these teams played in week 7, the Cardinals only pressured him on 35% of his dropbacks. This is 4th lowest rate in the season. They're 28th in pressure rate. And that matters for Geno because when he's kept clean, he's completed 73% of his passes, 8.4 yards per pass attempt. When he's been pressured, 51.2% completion rate, 5.3 yards per pass attempt. He goes from the fewest air yards per attempt when pressured, to 10th in the NFL in air yards per attempt when he's kept clean. So I do like Geno Smith in kind of this spot where I think people are just going to play Tyrod Taylor or just go up to like Justin Fields, Dak Prescott if you're on FanDuel, play Josh Allen, and Geno will kind of go overlooked.
Yep. Geno Smith was on the way too early prop drop this week. We took over 243.5 passing yards. If you just saw this across Twitter today and the video went out over there, you're late. Honestly, this is something you should be getting in your email inbox much sooner. We'll have the anytime touchdown one going out later today. That's been a great send for us as well, but show you guys a lot of wins. Happy to show you guys when I lose as well. Last week the way too early drop went 1-3, so not the best, but has been a really good year overall for that sense. Open to rebound this week. The anytime touchdown videos have been crushing so far, so take that for what it's worth. Maybe this is the week to fade, but 4 videos so far we're 12-3, and that includes a Christian McCaffrey injury last week, which wasn't fun. But what else do we want to talk about in this game, Reeves, on the Seahawks side of the ball? Because I think that there's a couple of guys here that are at least options to stack with.
Yeah, obviously, I still think if you're stacking Geno, it does kind of start with DK Metcalf. He does have some wide splits versus man and zone, but I think when you look at his past 6 games playing with Geno Smith, he's had 94 yards receiving in at least 4 of those 6 games. Also, over his past 8 games, Metcalf's 4th in the NFL in receiving yards. He's got 6 touchdowns. It's 30 NFL. 3 of them did come in 1 game. But also why it's even harder, though, to kind of get down to the other guys is that Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba are kind of cannibalizing each other right now.
Yeah.
They very much have similar stat lines the past 6 weeks, and it's been harder because neither one of those guys have had really a high ceiling where we've had DK Metcalf at least show us ceiling potential. So I would still say if you're stacking Geno, it starts at DK. Not that you can't play Tyler Lockett or Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I just think from a ceiling perspective, we're getting way more touchdown equity in a guy like DK Metcalf. I also think Kenneth Walker is going to be a pretty good tournament play as well, too. It looks like he's tracking to play. He left last week's game with a shoulder injury. He always finds a way to play somehow too. But I mean, again, we only get one more week to play against this Cardinals defense, and they are 31st in rushing points allowed to opposing running backs, 28th in receiving points allowed to opposing running backs. They've allowed 22 total touchdowns to running backs. That's 31st in the NFL. Walker had 111 yards on 28 touches when these teams met earlier in the season. Zach Charbonnet was out for that game, but we have seen the Cardinals repeatedly give up the bag to running backs, so don't ignore Kenneth Walker either.
Yep, I like it. On the Cardinals side of the ball, it's actually pretty clean. It feels pretty good to get James Conner in your lineup at 6,100. Also, Trey McBride, 6K. But if you are paying up for tight end this week, he still projects out really well, even at that price point. So let's start with Conner since he was on your list for the other week, and we can touch on McBride as well.
Yeah, Connor's been on just the heater. This isn't just like a last week thing. He's had 4 consecutive RB1 scoring weeks. He's gone over 100 total yards in 3 of those 4 games. He has 6 total touchdowns over that span. He's been one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL this season when he's been on the field. We've got 44 running backs this season with 100 or more carries. He's 5th in yards per carry, 6th in success rate, 6th in explosive run rate, 8th in rate of runs for a first down or touchdown. He's 1st in the NFL in yards after contact per carry. Now he's facing a defense that is just absolutely hemorrhaging rushing yards to running backs over their past 6 games. Seattle's 31st in the NFL in yards per carry to running backs. Their 57% success rate is 29th in the NFL to running backs over span. They're 31st in rate of runs against running backs go for a first down or touchdown. We saw both Steelers running backs post RB1 scoring weeks against the Seahawks. Last week we saw Derrick Henry the week before do it. We saw Tony Pollard do it. We've seen Christian McCaffrey do it twice over that span. So James Conner looks to be in just an optimal spot here to kind of keep this hot streak moving. And you touched on Trey McBride. He still does stand out from a usage stance being like the clear tight end 1. It's a really bad tight end slate. We're probably not going to get George Kittle. They haven't ruled him out yet, but he's probably not going to play. We already know David Njoku's probably not going to play, or we might see Travis Kelce for a couple snaps because he only needs 16 yards or 1,000, but like he's not going to really play. And honestly, Travis Kelce hasn't been someone we've been wanting to play anyways.
Yeah. Wow.
Especially after last week when I chased that beast one final time. But Trey McBride's usage remains good. He's had a couple down weeks, like not exciting weeks the past 2 weeks, but he still has 22% and 21.6% of the team targets the past 2 games. So the usage is still there if you do want to run a Trey McBride stack and play Kyler.
Yeah, do you have any interest in playing Kyler? I haven't played him much since he's been back from injury. I think I still prefer the Geno side, but would you consider him, you think, in this spot?
I think he's definitely on the table in context of this slate. I mean, he's now made 7 starts this year, and he has hit 20 fantasy points in 4 of those games. We haven't seen like the super ceiling from him, but he's only 300 more than Geno. So like, if I'm suggesting Geno, like I gotta at least say like you can't ignore Kyler Murray. And then we did see Seattle also, like they've just been kind of bad defensively overall, like the past month. I mean, even Mason Rudolph completed 75% of his passes, 11.4 yards per pass attempt last week. So if they can't pressure Kyler, who also has wide splits like Geno against pressure and non, so then maybe there's an opportunity for Kyler to get there too. I don't think he's off the menu. I'm more interested in the Geno side, but I don't think Kyler's off menu because if you want to play the Walker side, you would do something like Walker, Kyler, Trey McBride, right? Like there's an inverse way to play this. That's why I think this game stands out as like the more of the stackable games than the other ones we have.
I'm with you. Before we build a lineup here, just want to touch on if anyone is in the NBA streets, we also have a newsletter for the NBA PropDrop as well. At least yesterday, 70% of our NBA bets hit, and a lot of those went out on the newsletter first thing. So there's a link in the description for that if you're trying to get your NBA picks in there as NFL is winding down a little bit. So Reeves, let's go ahead and jump into a lineup build here. I guess it seems like probably the Geno side would be the preference from a stacking perspective, but I'm open to letting you kind of grab the wheel here.
Yeah, we can do something like Geno and DK and then
Okay.
James Conner.
Let's do that. Geno, DK, and then James Conner. We've been talking about, at least at the defense position, just playing Chargers against the Chiefs backups, I think makes some sense at 2,800. This is another one of those weeks where defense is even more kind of spread out just because we have a lot of these backup quarterbacks, backups across the board going out there. So still a ton of room to play with here. This probably could be a team we get McBride into, or I know there's a lot of other guys that we could be paying up for at some other primary spots as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still be more comfortable like taking that salary and putting on one
Yeah.
of like the blue chip wide receivers
Yep.
if possible.
You
So
want to get
like,
this? You want to get CD on this one since we didn't get him on the last one.
yeah, we could try to jam him in
Try and
here.
jam in a CD. Okay, so then Bryant was the min price touch or tight end that we went with last time. So maybe this one we get in Noah Gray. I don't think Noah Gray at 2,500 matters against the defense of the Chargers.
No.
I think that both of these guys together is totally fine. So 5,300 the rest of the way, running back, wide receiver, and a flex.
Yeah, so do we go down to Zamir again?
Cool. Do that. 6K for Zamir White against this Denver defense. Makes sense. 5K wide receiver and a flex. Like, we could still get in probably at least one more mid-range option here for sure. And this is like, if we do get Christian Kirk, you get a free square there, obviously at 3K, which we talked about a little bit more in the other video. But if this isn't a Christian Kirk team, I guess, do you have any preference here?
No, I mean, if you want to do Kirk, we can. Does that give us to, that doesn't get us to Evans though.
Yeah,
It doesn't
Kirk.
get us to Mike Evans. It's like DJ Moore,
Yeah,
like all the Q guys. Every guy, look at that whole like 7K. Like every guy is a Q.
yeah. So if we didn't go to him, I mean, we could probably just get in your boy Calvin Ridley in this spot too.
Yeah, I mean,
6,500.
well, we have Kirk. The only thing I could say is if you wanted to flip out, I know we did try to do a CD. If you wanted to flip out CD for Justin Jefferson, then that gives you enough to kind of play around with and do something like a Slayton plus, whatever you
Ooh,
want
that's
to do.
interesting.
Slayton,
Yep.
you can actually do Slayton and Ridley if you do that, right?
And then if you leave Kirk in, you can go Jefferson and Evans together as well,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is pretty
Jesus,
hot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
let's go with that. All right, Rich
Yeah,
Hribar,
sure.
buddy. It is week 18, so we'll be with you guys in the playoffs. Make sure you guys are checking out the worksheet over at sharpfootballanalysis.com. Anything else you want to talk about here, Reeves, before we get you out of here?
No, that's it. And if you did go check out an article this year, whether you checked out one or all of them, I thank you. I'm grateful for you the support this season. I feel like the worksheet gets better every year. Like it gets more robust. I feel like I add more information to it every year, and I try to make it stand out in the industry amongst other articles that come out as matchups columns. So you get something more unique when you check out something that I wrote versus anyone else. And that's not like being braggadocious.
Yeah.
Those people make me want to raise the bar too and make my work even better. So I thank anyone that's checked out any article this season.